Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to colleagues, those who are joining this particular session from different parts of the world. I am very delighted on behalf of EcoI to introduce the chair of this particular session, which is a very important one related to the evaluation policies and systems and the experiences shared by our different panelists from different countries. Let me take first to introduce Dr. Antony Shiryak, who is going to be the chair and moderator of this session. Dr. Shiryak is a Deputy Director General in the Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office of Niti Aayog, which is a think tank of the Government of India. He joined the Government of India in 1996 as a member of the Indian Economic Services and as a part of the program evaluation organizations of the, earlier it is Niti Aayog was called Planning Commission, so he was a part of that, and he was involved in evaluation of many of the government schemes in India. He worked on areas such as industry, infrastructure, public finance, and microeconomics during his tenure working with the Ministry of Finance. Before joining the DMU in Niti Aayog, he was an economic advisor to the 15th Finance Commission of India. And he possesses a post-graduation economics from University of Kerala and also MPhil from JNU Delhi. So welcome, Mr. Dr. Shiryak. And I hope this session will be very well moderated and we will gain a lot of insights from here. Allow me also to introduce briefly the panelists of this session today. We start with, not in order, but I'm just starting one by one. Firstly, Anna Erika Lorja. She is co-lead of Evaluate Asia. Anna is a young and emerging evaluator from the Philippines with extensive experiences in communications, graphic designs, and social media management that allows her to effectively communicate technical, complex, and abstract information through engaging the inclusive visual products. So welcome, Anna. We look forward to hear from your experiences and your work. The other panel member is Mr. Yatin Diwakar. Yatin is a co-leader of Evaluate Asia, Evaluate India, and core group member of EcoI along with me. At present, he is a PhD scholar at the Center for Technology Alternatives for Rural Areas at IIT Mumbai. His research areas is M&E systems and capacities in India, and his interest is in establishing a national M&E policy for the country, an important step in strengthening the M&E ecosystem. So he is also co-leader of Evaluate Asia, a co-founder and co-leader of Evaluate India and core group member of EcoI, which I have said. So welcome, Yatin. We look forward for your expertise and your work on setting up the systems for evaluation. I also welcome Dr. Punsho Choden from Bhutan. She is the chair of the Evaluation Association of Bhutan. As an independent social economics researcher, business consultant, development and policy evaluator. She received her PhD from Business School of Kyoto in Australia and has more than 20 years of experience combined with the government, academia, private sector, and in many other places. And she's teaching, she's also working on evaluation in Bhutan, and she's the leader to push forward about the culture of evaluation in Bhutan, as what I could also see whenever I visit Bhutan. So welcome, Dr. Choden. Next panelist, a very eminent, Dr. Miyaguchi is an associate professor at the Department of Global Studies, Kyoto University of Foreign Studies. After working at several UN agencies such as UNDP in the field of climate change and environment, Miyaguchi has been He was involved with various topics, including theory-based evaluation approaches, realistic approach, and critical realism, and how they are applied to evaluation, especially to climate change interventions. And he holds PhD degree from Global Environmental Study. So once again, I welcome you for this panel. And we also have Mr. Butsugar, who is a member of Mongolian Evaluation Network and a member of former board member of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. He's a social researcher and policy expert, specialized in governance, social inclusion, and equality with academic background in sociology and law. So I welcome all these panelists and hand over the floor to Dr. Anthony for further deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sanjay Kumar, and warm welcome again to the distinguished panel that we have here. So I would rather like to introduce the topic and pale into insignificance. That's how I think the chair should behave. So so we have the session on 90 minutes, roughly now 85 minutes, on national evaluation policies and systems in the Asia Pacific. So now one can approach this topic with a as a dichotomous choice question. Now, is there a national evaluation policy? Maybe no in many countries, but then if there is no policy, then there will be some framework governing evaluations in our countries. So kindly dwell upon them. And systems, of course, we will mostly have federal systems here. So and if the systems are unitary, so how are systems organized? There will be some system for evaluation at all tiers of government in different countries. So how are those systems organized? And the third simple thing that I would like to say is our focus should be to bring out the maximum heterogeneity in the region. So the region is highly heterogeneous in terms of its systemic developments, practices, etc. So let's bring out the maximum heterogeneity. So I would also, while requesting the first speaker, I would also request that let's stick to the time. I mean, for accomplished speakers, I don't need to say that, but let's stick to 10 minutes. And if not 10, then let's reduce it to 9 minutes so that we get some buffer in the end. So with these words, I would like to invite, I go by the order which is given to me. I would like to invite Miss Ana Erika Laresa to speak about her experiences and her knowledge about policies and systems. Thank you very much. Anna, over to you.
Thank you, Sir Anthony, for that introduction and really setting high standards for these sessions as well. So I'll do my best to stick to the time and also address the questions that you have raised just before. So I would like to take the sharing of the screen at the moment. Okay. So yeah, so as Sir Anthony have mentioned, I would like to just like very briefly just want to share essentially like what's the status of national evaluation policies here in the Philippines, but like more so focusing on the perspective of like as an evaluator from a private sector and also as a young and emerging evaluators, like what its status, what and what are its implications for for the general public, especially for evaluators here in the Philippines. So, just a very brief background, like the evaluation system here in the Philippines, or like its very core have started as early as 35 years ago. So we have this government agency mandated to essentially monitor and evaluate the programs of the country as early as 1987, and throughout the years it have gone through a lot of process in like refining the process that it has, creating systems and several like the streamlining of the roles and responsibilities of this government structure, specifically in the executive branch of the government. So in in 2010 it started going out into the reaching out more into the public part, or the nationwide, essentially by like creating a professional network of evaluators in the Philippines, and then like moved into um, establishing the first national evaluation policy framework in the country. One thing though that they that's really, I think, one focus of this framework is that uh, it's essentially just really this framework is just focused on the executive branch of the Philippine government. What do I mean by that is essentially it's only for national government agencies, but for the rest of the sectors here in the Philippines, like no such frameworks that existed for them. And it's not mandatory, it's just a framework that people, government agencies are asked to follow. So after 2015, what's the progress that happened? Essentially nothing. The next thing that happened was the Eval Colombo 2018, or essentially the declaration, what we now declare the Colombo Declaration on Evaluation, wherein parliamentarians, so if you have attended the earlier presidential strand, it's these people, these parliamentarians who have attended these sessions, who recognize the need of evaluation and have agreed to commit to push for the institutionalization of evaluation in their countries. So it was like, for the Philippines, it's Dr. Romulo is one of those people who were signing.
And you are muted again.
Sorry, how
Yeah.
long was I muted? Or
No. It's just for 2 3 seconds, perhaps.
okay,
Yes.
thank you. Okay, so yeah, following the Colombo Declaration, like, we are having this the third APEA conference, but the second APEA, what actually happened in the Philippines a year later, following the Colombo Declaration in 2019, and it also held a session on like promoting the national evaluation policies. And APEA conference is also the first conference in East Asia to have held an evaluation conference that was hosted by the government. So the second day of the conference, we're in several parliamentarians have also gathered in the Philippines, renewing their commitments for the Colombo Declaration, and uh, like sharing what the lessons that they've had so far in implementing that declaration and in their commitments. So yeah, so this was one of the this is also a landmark event for the Philippines, because it was also one of the very first big steps that we have into into the institutionalization of evaluation, wherein a bill for NEPs was filed. So moving forward from then, the first one that we talked, I mentioned during the conference, was the Senate Bill 7788. As Dr. Romulo have mentioned earlier during the presidential stand, we currently have two bills pending in the upper house of the government, and three bills. I don't have the information sorry, for the third one. Three bills for the third on the lower house of the Philippine government pending. We have five bills pending just to have this national evaluation policy be approved. And I think it reflects on how uh, like slowly parliaments have really been demanding for this system to be set up, for them to have access to evaluation results, for more for evidence, for evidence informed actions, to for more efficient programs, transparency, and accountability. And moving forward from there, going back to the executive side of the government, from the uh, from the establishment of the evaluation framework in 2015, it also moved into expanding it into uh, a- into devolving this function of monitoring and evaluation, not only just from having it on centralized national government agencies, but also be devolved into the function of local government units. And that includes conducting monitoring and evaluation, or assisting to it, or monitoring the targets for the development plans of the country. So it is this is a very good step, in a sense wherein even the local government units are becoming more and more aware of the purpose of monitoring and evaluation, and being able to perform it with their capacity strengthened in either implementing it, or understanding it uh, to help like to help with the M&E functions of the national level of government units. Um, Following that as well, just like early uh, 2020, we finally had as well a guideline for the for our national evaluation policy framework. It's been since 2015, it's been promised that we will be having these guidelines, and 20, 2021 we finally have it. And I think it's a good thing that this guideline was this was developed at the request of the national government agencies, and to me is it shows a good use of how this guidelines is very much focused on the stakeholder aspect in its development, and also for it to be a living document. And I think this is like a chef's kiss in the development of this guideline, in a sense that uh, it makes the guidelines adaptable and flexible, specifically in our context today, especially with COVID and the changing context that we're currently facing. The fact that this guideline is had this flexibility was very much forward looking, uh, and I think it's innovative in a for innovative as well, essentially. So yeah, so challenges and way forward, with all of those considered, what are the challenges that the Philippines are currently facing when it regards to the development of national evaluation policy system, and to having its like, you know, for us to have a very good and strong evaluation culture, wherein we are people are demanding for evaluation and using its results for accountability and transparency. So first, like any other countries, and I believe others will talk about it more, is essentially the varying levels of M&E capacity. We all know here in Asia Pacific, there is no formal education competency. There is no standardized competency levels for evaluators, and there's no institutionalized capacity building processes. So this affects the supply of quality evaluators that he has, the quality of evaluations available to us, and the quality also affects the usefulness of the evaluation, and in turn it also affects of how this evaluation can help improve the efficiency of the government interventions that we have. The second one is political, the lack of political will. I know I have mentioned that the demand, the parliamentarians demanding for evaluation or for evidence um, have been increasing, but they may demand for evidence, but it doesn't necessarily mean they would demand for evaluations. That's one thing. Another dimension to it is that, like, aside from the demand of evaluation, there is no urgency in demanding for these materials, right? um, I say this because if if we just like step back and look into, for let's say, climate change, right? We have climate change and SDGs. We have until 2030 to deliver the SDGs. It's already 2022. We have 8 years left to deliver that. And the thing is, like, in climate change perspective, we need the implementation. Like, we need to focus on the implementation as early as 2030, so that the effects of those actions will affect the 2050. Now we're in 2022 and we're still not on the implementation part. We're still figuring out how to implement. So as a young and emerging evaluator, as a youth who's gonna be at my prime at 2050, naturally I'm concerned. And I think this is, like, for everyone, this is also a point of concern that mm, they an point of concern that, like, we need to ask for this with more urgency. Um, with more urgency. Um, and the third one is, like, the supply of evaluators. Again, like I'm saying, there is no institutionalized capacity building for young, emerging, and evaluators. There is no pathways for us to
Anna,
enter.
Anna,
Yes,
sorry to interrupt you. Maybe please wrap up.
yes. Like, this is my last point. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yes, yeah. So this is just me, like, advocating again for young and emerging evaluators. Like, y- as like I have mentioned it multiple times, many people have mentioned it multiple times. Young and emerging evaluators is the pool of people that you will get to ensure the sustainability of this field. So we need to offer pathways for them, build their capacities, and ensure that their capacity is at a competency level wherein they can produce evaluations that's going to be useful and that's going to be transformative, essentially, to achieve what we want to deliver the SDGs. So I think those are all my points for now. Thank you so much, and back to you, Anthony.
Thank you very much. Very, very, very beautifully presented. And two core points. One is the political will that determines everything in this, and second, the quality of output, the quantity of quality evaluation. So that's very important. Now the India perspective perhaps comes from Dr. Yatin Divakar. Yatin, over to you, please.
Thank you. So let me just start sharing my slides. So yes, so Erica took us into the future and made us worry about what will happen in the next 30 years and how we should prepare for that. What I feel is that when we are all preparing for the future and current systems and setting up systems and policies, we should also look at what has happened in our history and how our systems have evolved. And if we don't look at the history and if we have not documented it properly, then at times it might happen that we do not understand truly where we have come from and what mistakes we have made in the past and how we should go ahead. So I will take a start with the history of India. I'll take you back. So if you look at various documents which have been prepared, like the International Atlas for Evolution and etc. in the NEPS report prepared by Rosenstein in 2015, India seems to have a very poor status of NEPS and India is missing from the documentation. But India is one of the earliest countries to have a program evaluation office at the central level, started in 1952. This is just the post-war period for the rest of the world. And if you look at the history across the globe, even at World Bank and United Nations organizations, they still did not have a consolidated evaluation function at that time. India had a planning system and a evaluation office back then. Many other countries too had similar offices, especially the ones who had adopted the planning model. After experimenting with it for many years, systems waxed and waned. In 2005-6, India started the outcome-based budgeting process. Performance monitoring and evaluation system was started in 2009. And still in 2012, authors in India itself are calling India's evaluation system as a work in progress, although we had a very strong system in my opinion. The main reason behind this is that we never had any published research, peer-reviewed literature on India's history. So I am trying to document it, and I'll just show a glimpse of it first and then move ahead. So since 1950s, we have had continuous efforts of strengthening the evaluation system in India, creating evaluation system in India. In the 1960s, we had a Central Program Evaluation Office under Planning Commission, which is now replaced by DMO in 2015. Then we had regional program evaluation offices under this office, and we had field offices under this office. So about 24 offices associated with the central office. Apart from this, in the states, various states in the country, we had more than 20 evaluation offices. In more than 20 states, we had state evaluation offices. So over 44 offices with 500 staff were there in the 60s. And there were regular plans for and programs for strengthening evaluation systems in the country. The second and third 5-year plans between 56 and 66 established all these offices that I just mentioned. Then we had committed to strengthen evaluation machinery, which gave its report in 1978, and some of its suggestions were implemented. Then again, we had a scheme for strengthening evaluation in 2006 to 2012 during the 11 5-year plan. As I said, PMES was started in 2009, which covered 84 ministries and departments and thousands of bureaucrats under it. It also had results framework documentation, which was monitored by the PMO. The Independent Evaluation Office was started in 2013, and there were guidelines established for third-party evaluations. Ministries were outsourcing evaluation studies, they're getting studies done, and DMO came in 2015. I also tried to map the history of India and also added a lot of other things to it. So here you can see that things started in 1952 with the formation of PO. Then many state evaluation offices were set up, and then continuously some activity has been happening. But depending on how was the process happening during this time, I named it into, I divided the timing into 4 sections. The period from 1950s to 1973 was planned growth phase, when the evaluation system was growing in a planned manner through planned programs and through central push. Then we had the contraction phase, when evaluation functions were being ignored to some extent, new hiring was being reduced, roles and responsibilities were being changed. But during this time also, we had many efforts to rejuvenate these systems through various committees and conferences at national level, international conferences and documentations. In the late 90s, there was a resurgence under the then Planning Commission chairman and everything. And this was the phase when the PMES and other things were started, Independent Evaluation Office was being started. And then after the regime change in 2014, we again reinvented a lot of things. We consolidated the function, restructured the offices under DMO, and now DMO is leading the country's evaluation systems at the front. So what we see is that since 50s, India has had continuous action, continuous changes, continuous improvements. Even if you look at the number of reports produced by just one single office, which is the Central Program Evaluation Office, every year we have had reports being produced. Average, if you see, it's about 4 reports coming out every year. This is just one office. We also had state evaluation offices, as I said, and we had ministry level evaluation offices, and there were also research studies being sponsored by these offices. So if you look at the total number of evaluation studies which have happened in India in the last 70 years, it is just humongous. We don't even have an entire database of those studies currently. As I said, we also had strong setup in states. Decentralization of evaluation function was also very good in India, is very good in India. Currently, there might be some weaknesses coming in different states, but overall, we have a strong structure, typically under Directorates of Evaluation or a evaluation division under the Directorate of Economics and Statistics. Today, Karnataka has Karnataka Evaluation Authority. Tamil Nadu has Directorate of Evaluation and Applied Research. Rajasthan has a Directorate of Evaluation Organization, which also has its own service rules. Karnataka has a evaluation policy. So at different levels, different states are doing good. Maharashtra has an evaluation division under its Directorate of Economics and Statistics. But one interesting thing about Maharashtra is that since 1998, it has a government resolution which says that every year, every district in Maharashtra has to do 2 evaluation studies and present its reports to the district planning committee before sanctioning of the next national annual plan. And this is also on lines of what was being done at the central level, that under every 5-year plan cycle, each scheme was supposed to be evaluated at least once, and now under the finance commission cycle. So basically the system is defines who gets how much funds, which schemes gets how much fund. it also requires that we do regular evaluations. So states also have empaneled institutions. Online repositories of evaluation reports are available for some of the states, especially around 2010 these were created. So latest reports are not available. Up to 2012-13 are available for many states. Many ministries also had evaluation function, have evaluation function. They also do regular evaluation studies through their finance advisor. They have national level monitors, concurrent evaluations, third party evaluations, and also sponsor studies by academic institutions. So in India, we see there's no consolidated data about all this, but evaluation is all pervasive. It has been happening at different levels in different ways. And today, evaluation also mandated under the Corporate Social Responsibility Law amended last year. So yes, evaluation has been pushed throughout in India. But when we come to the policy, India does not have a formal policy, which will soon change in the next few months, hopefully. We see records that say that policy was under development since 1954. It was well developed, though poorly documented in 2009 when the performance monitoring evaluation system was set up. In 2015, during the Global Evaluator event, which Ziad yesterday mentioned during his speech, there was a call by the planning minister to set up a formal national evaluation policy for India. But if you just look at the guidelines of Department of Expenditure, as I was saying earlier, they do mandate regular evaluations and evaluation planning, etc. So in ways, parts of the policies, though not formally present, were present in India since many decades. Today, under DMU's leadership, the draft of National Evaluation Policy Framework is being prepared. There will be discussions around it, and hopefully we will have some good thing coming out of it after interaction with all possible stakeholders. Of course, apart from this, there is a need for strengthening our parliamentary systems and increasing awareness and engaging with the parliamentarians. Those who attended the previous session, you must have noticed that parliamentarians from India were missing. And this has been the case in India, that we have not yet got a very strong buy-in from our parliamentarians. If we get that, I am very sure that we will set up a very strong system. If you are able to set up a standing committee in parliament which discusses evaluation. I just went through data of India's parliament where you can ask, where the parliamentarians can ask question to the government. I went through data for about 5 years, and I saw that regularly questions related to evaluation and evaluation studies are being asked in the parliament. What needs to happen is to formalize.
Yatin, you got muted.
I realized that, yes. So yeah, so what I was saying was, so what we need is a formal system within our parliament as well. And I hope that the national evaluation policy will help us in formalizing a lot of things. So if you look at the status of evaluation system, as I said, we already had a good decentralized system. And today, under DMU's leadership, India is further strengthening its system. DMU came out with a strategy paper, and it is engaging with all kinds of partners from academia, from civil society, VOPEs, multilateral agencies. It is now focusing on preparing annual evaluation plans, creating templates for ministries to follow and states to follow, and doing capacity building activities. The advisory committees which existed earlier are being reinitiated now. I would just like to point out that these are not new activities if you look at history of 70 years, but since we do not have very strong documentation from our history, we are not able to learn from it and move ahead. We have to depend on outside help, which is like also another point. Many times India is just repeating things. In 1977, we had the first evaluation conference. But in 2009, when there was another conference being organized, the deputy chairman of Planning Commission said that this is the first time India is having such a conference. But we have had conferences since 1977, then one in 80s, one in 90s. So this was at least the fourth national level conference. We had evaluation advisory committees since the 60s, 70s, but in 1994, there is documentation that it is being found for the first time. There has been regular interaction with states, status reports have been prepared, but very rarely do they refer to the previous studies which have been done over the decades. And so every time people feel that we are doing this for the first time. Same also happened with the outcome monitoring framework, about which we speak a lot in the country currently. Outcome budgeting was started in 2005 under the PMES. In 2009, we started with the results framework documents, and they are very similar to what OOMF is today. But in 2017, when we replaced that system with OOMF, there were claims that outcome budgeting is being introduced in the budget for the first time. Over the years,
Yatin,
Yes.
so sorry to interrupt. Kindly wrap up. Kindly.
Yeah. Yes. So there has been a fall in evaluation capacity. India's system has gone from trainers of international students of evaluation to people who are sending out trainees, and things are repeating every 10 years, just as I mentioned. And the problem behind this is that we have poor institutionalization, poor documentation, actor-centric efforts, and gaps in institutional memory. And where are we going from here? So under able leadership of DMO and active participation from Evaluation Community of India and partnership with agencies like APIA, a connected ecosystem is being created. States and ministries are again being actively engaged, and we have national level training programs being planned for in-service officials. So we were once training Indian economic service officers in the 80s, and trainings were being held across the country in the 70s, but this system collapsed in early 2000s. It is being revived now. And if we have a better institutionalized, formalized, and documented system, the current system can flourish. And in the next lot, when they'll refer to old documentation, continuity will be achieved. And that's it. Thank you. You can refer to my work on this at this link. I will drop these things in the chat. If you are a youth, please join our Eval Youth networks at Asia and India level. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I will call upon Funso now to start.
Thank you, moderator, and greetings to everyone who is present here. And it's a great pleasure for me to share the experiences of national evaluation system of my country, that is Bhutan. And Bhutan has a very short history on the evaluation, like especially with the setting up of formal institutions on evaluation. Like it started talking about a national M&E system only in 2006, and then Evaluation Association of Bhutan, which is a national VOPE, was formed as a virtual organization in 2013. So we have a very short history on evaluation. So now let me share briefly what's happening in my country on evaluation ecosystem. Can you go next slide? So when I talk about the evaluation ecosystem, so mainly like I will be talking on the three important components that shape the national ecosystem of evaluation. That is, the first is the enabling environment for evaluation. The second is evaluative thinking and demand for evaluation. And thirdly, the supply side institutions and the evaluators in the country. So I will be talking what's happening in my country on these three frontiers. So can you move to next slide? And so now talking about the enabling environment. Next slide, please. So national evaluation policy forms a very important framework for guiding the evaluation in any country. So NEP in my country is being drafted, but not implemented yet at the moment. So there is no national framework that guides the practice of evaluation in the country at the moment. And there are also no standards and competency framework which are in place that really focuses. These standards and competency frameworks are very important for producing quality evaluation that are relevant and useful for the evidence-based decision making. But these standards and competency, and for that matter, the ethical frameworks are missing at the moment. And these are the institutions. I'm talking about the institution on the enabling environment. The third very important thing that play the important enabling environment is the people, the decision makers or the parliamentarians or the implementers. Among those people, there is also like a low awareness of value of evaluation, though it is growing at the moment, but still the low awareness is prevailing in the system in the country. So this is about the what's happening in the enabling environment in my country. So next is evaluation in practice. Here I will talk about a little bit about the demand side of the evaluation. So looking back, we have a very strong practice of monitoring. Which are widely practiced. We have a statutory audit and compliance audit, which play a very important role in the practice of good governance. And recently, also government launched the data dashboard, which is called DEWA dashboard, to monitor the GNH, gross national happiness, which is our philosophy of development, and the SDGs in the country. So these are very positive developments happening in the country, but the gap is this monitoring and data input and monitoring activities should be linked to the evaluation in order to take the learnings and what's improved to improve the future decision making. But this gap is not yet been filled at the moment. So since the evaluation culture though the monitoring is widely being practiced, evaluation culture is yet to be developed. It is still at the nascent stage. And so when there is no low level of evaluation culture, then the demand for the evaluation it can be low, because these two are linked. And when the evaluative thinking is low, then the demand for evaluation could be low. So that's why the demand for evaluation is low. And also on the organizational side, when we talk about the organizational capacity on evaluation is also quite limited at the moment. So this is obviously because when there is low evaluative thinking and low awareness of value of evaluation, so organizations are not prepared to build this capacity. So we see limited organizational capacity on the demand side of the institution, that is the users of the evaluation. So this is what's happening on the demand side. So if you can move to the next slides on the supply side. So on the supply side, basically, when we talk about the supply side, we are talking about the institutions who deals with the supply of evaluators, and also institutions which deal with the professional development of evaluators. So then, firstly, I will talk about the evaluating capability and competency, which are very, very important for producing quality evaluation, and also the relevant evaluation, relevant to time and relevant to context, which is very important qualities of the evaluator. So as I have mentioned earlier, that there are no competency framework and standards at the moment in place. So it's very difficult to assess and to see the competency level of our evaluators at the moment. And there could be many evaluators who are by coincidence, they became the evaluators. So when there is no standards in place at the moment, it's very difficult to see the competency of the evaluators at the moment. And again, on the organizational capacity of the institution, of the supply side institution is also limited. There are no institutions that are dedicated to produce or who provide the regular professional development courses or programs for the evaluators. And there is also a lack of standardized training contents. And also, as I mentioned, that there are no regular organizations which provide the courses. The training opportunities are also limited, and also many ad hoc things happening here and there. So they're without having a standard training contents. That is the current status of our supply side institutions and the evaluators in the country. And with this, now the presenting what's happening in my country. So next, what's next for us to do is On the enabling environment side, we need to support the draft NEP for endorsement and also contribute our knowledge and technical expertise in developing standards and competency framework, ethical frameworks and everything to guide our evaluators and the evaluation to be relevant to the time, relevant to the context, and also to produce a useful evaluation, which is very important. So we need to focus on working on these areas. And also there must be a continuous advocacy to promote evaluative thinking among the policymakers, parliamentarians, and the implementers, so that the demand for evaluation is generated. And on the supply side, we also need to collaborate with the institutions, university, to develop a dedicated professional courses or the trainings to help our evaluators, as well as not just evaluators, also on the demand side. We can think of training our people to advocate for the use of evaluation, how to use the evaluation in making the decision based on evidence. And the other thing is like standardized and localized evaluation training contents, which is very important, I feel, because to have a relevant evaluation to the time, to the context, and a useful evaluation is very important to have the competencies of our evaluators on the contents where we have the training materials are localized and localized to the context is very important. So I think the relevant training, to provide relevant training to our evaluators, we need to standardize and localize evaluation training. And thirdly, now like YEEs, which are very important, young and emerging evaluators, and we need to provide a platform for them and to mentor them and take them through the practice so that they learn and they become a relevant evaluator in the country. So this is the way what's next for Bhutan, I think. And now finally I will show you this last slide. This is how I picture the role of WOPE. So the now like role of a WOPE should be really they should play the role of integration of demand side and on the supply side areas of the evaluation in order to build a vibrant and relevant evaluation ecosystem. So like on the supply side, the institutions will produce the evaluation expertise, and the WOPE on the other hand should be able to provide some kind of platform to link them to on the demand side, who are the users of the evaluators. And on the other hand, WOPE must also provide the technical expertise to the evaluation.
Kindly wrap up, please.
Okay, this is my last slide. Yeah, so in order to build the capacity on the demand side, also WOPE must always continue to advocate for the evaluation use, and also should be in a position to provide the evidence for decision making to the users. So, so this is the role I see the WOPE must play in building a relevant evaluation ecosystem in any nation. So thank you. So this is it for me. Thank you, and thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Funso. Now the academic perspective from Dr. Takaki, please.
Right. Okay. Let me share. Wait. It said that I cannot share.
Salman, please stop sharing.
Yes, maybe I'm not a co-host. Oh, okay, right.
Now you can.
Right. Oh, okay, I hope it's showing.
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, let me try to expedite a little bit, but thank you for the introduction. My name is Miyaguchi and my name is Taka, and I will be talking about national evaluation policies and systems of Japan, representing also Japan Evaluation Society. First, the NEPs of Japan. Let me show my face actually. First, the NEPs of Japan. As of now, we have three kind of strands. First is the evaluation system itself, about which I will talk about mainly. This has been enacted and been under implementation since 2001. And second of the strand is administrative project review. This is also commenced since 2011. But this is actually the internal review of approximately 5,000 projects or programs by each government institution. And the third strand is evidence-based policymaking. EBPM is very much in the making. This has been put into as a trial basis since 2017. This is just to let you know that that main topic I will talk about, which is about the evaluation system, is actually part of these three big kind of structures ongoing. And we have to be cognizant of the duties that the technocrats and bureaucrats, they will all have to conduct every single of these three every year. But having said that, the evaluation system, ES in this case, which commenced since 2011, is the kind of a basic structure of all these 1, 2, 3. So therefore, I will talk about this evaluation system. In terms of laws or acts that relate to this evaluation system, we have 2 points on that. Based on these acts, Act for Establishment of Cabinet Office and National Government Organizational Act of 2001, whereby government agencies are obliged to conduct or implement internal evaluations of their policies. And second, with Government Policies Evaluations Act, which is also enacted in 2001, institutional system or structure for policy evaluation was formally established with this law. And these systems, they are all applicable to a total of 22 government offices or agencies or ministries. And in terms of institutional arrangement under evaluation system, we have this situation. First, all ministries are obliged to conduct policy evaluations. The reason why I put in a bracket, I will explain, but all ministries are obliged to conduct evaluations and submit reports to the National Diet. Second, all ministries are obliged to publish its evaluation reports and inform public online and by publications for its accountability. Third, Ministry of Interior, MOI, is designated to consolidate results and publish annual report, and occasionally conducts inspection type of assessment as a kind of a quote-unquote third party evaluation. Structure of evaluation system, this I refer to Professor Nishide's work, but when you can so you can see that all these big box here is what each government agency does as part of the internal evaluation. I will not go over every single one of them, but the main thing that we want you to notice is these 3 occasions where quote-unquote external or third-party evaluation assessment is done. Although, for example, number 1, with academic expert advisory is incorporated as part of the evaluation in internal evaluation. And although Ministry of Interior does have the right, and also they do go into and conduct third-party evaluation. And although there is a policy evaluation council requested by and report to Minister of Interior, these 3 occasions, otherwise external in kind of a textbook setting, are not truly, so to say, independent without much of the interference or the consideration of the political context. Anyhow, the main criticism against this current evaluation system of Japan, so I learned, is that the most heavily criticized point is the heavy reliance on internal evaluation, that is self-reporting or M&E type of practice. And let me explain why. The reasons for such main criticism is, one, modalities of conducting so-called evaluation are completely up to one of 22 government agencies. And in this case, evaluation methods, in this case, includes project evaluation, project analysis type of method, as well as project M&E, as well as policy or program evaluation. And although we have there are 3 types of evaluation that are to be used or recommended to be deployed, there is no common standards or framework as to what type of evaluation method is to be used and how. And in actuality, project M&E, as exposed, is dominant method that is used in current system. And the modalities of conducting external or third-party assessment are completely also up to each agency, as I have explained. And difficulties in analyzing publicized evaluation reports. And this relates to the very much of supply side and also demand side of this evaluation and its results, reports that talks about the evaluation results. Other criticisms, first is about evaluation results, quality issues. One piece of criticism, one type of criticism is that they talk about the evaluation system of Japan. They predominantly uses output-driven still, although they are in transition to go more toward outcome-based or even an impact-based. But as of now, there is a huge, strong tendency of output-drivenness. Second is inadequate amount of evaluation results gets publicized. So only the selected ones are to be publicized, and that's another piece of criticism. And also absence of evaluation strategy of each agency. This relates to the evaluation capacity of each agency and evaluators in each agency. And also, let me actually go into this. And also, I mean, just like any other countries, I would say, we do have quite low level of public interest, which I will talk about a little bit if I have time. And another type of criticisms, utilization issues. For example, Ministry of Interior, which oversees the evaluation system itself, but budget allocation is done by Ministry of Finance, which is yet another ministry that on a diagram or organigram wise is the same level, but as everyone knows, of course, Ministry of Finance does have the authority and the power to distribute budget. And evaluation results only to be recommended to be incorporated into new or to be revised policy or budgeting process. And evaluation system duties became just another set of administrative checkboxes. And therefore, what's needed in theory is, yes, that definitely we need to improve Japan's evaluation system as of now by creating highly capable external independent evaluation specialists or division or even industry. But of course, that's kind of only in theory, whereby there is an issue of lack of very much additional budget for its creation, maintenance, and implementation among public agencies. Second, difficulties of accessing, especially the classified information, policy-related information by such external evaluators. And also required time. There need to be a much required time to process such external evaluation. And this is my last slide, I think. Yes, last slide. No, second to last. So this all culminates into a typical, I have to say, inside or outside location of evaluation function, this debate. Insider, outsider debate, I'm quoting from Rossi, but this relates to the both technical quality and utilization, which tend to vary. What I mean by that is inside evaluation and external evaluation, they're not to be criticized because of the location of evaluation. And internal evaluators are doing all sorts of things that are kind of criticized by a pattern in this case. And I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to skip it. My last slide. Takeaway message, as a conclusive takeaway message from here, from my presentation, is how to then go about improving the current evaluation system of Japan by respecting the context, history, and also the culture of where this evaluation system is located. So we need to actually go from to the right that you see on the column to the left, and how to do so is still remaining to be a challenge to be seen in Japan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for sticking to the time also, please. A wonderful presentation. And over to you, Dr. Batsu here for the Mongolian perspective. Excited to hear you.
Thank you. Can you please stop the sharing, Salman? Thank you. So I'll try to be as short as possible. So hope you guys still see my screen. Okay. So just before the starting, what are the challenges of the existing national evaluation policy and systems in Mongolia? I wanted to have a quick look at the history of NEP's development in Mongolia. So we are a newly democratic country in the transition. And so before the evaluation policies and systems that we have now, we had this former Soviet or socialist system of auditing and state audit and controlling, which is still affecting the culture of evaluation and M&E in Mongolia. So M&E evaluation has started appearing in key government documents and acts from since 1999. But we see the development of evaluation and promotion of evaluation in the government system in so-called waves. So at this point, we've been under 3 waves of evaluation promotion in the government system. So the first wave started with the introduction of M&E acts to the government since 1999, as I mentioned. And the second wave, we consider it started with the Millennium Development Goals from early 2000s. And then the third wave started with the adoption of SDGs and adoption of law on development policy planning in Mongolia. And the core legal document is for evaluation is law on development policy planning and the M&E Act that has been approved by the cabinet of Mongolia. So from these waves and from this historical process, we can see that evaluation has been promoted not by the leadership of the government or because government institutions see that evaluation is really important and that's what they need and want, but rather they promote evaluation because it is required by the development community and international organizations to more effectively cooperate with them. So it's like a mechanical promotion or intervention process rather than it's an organic transition and development. So currently our institutional arrangements and policy framework is set out in different documents. So as I said, the main document is law on development policy planning, which is still under renewal and amendments. The last amendment has been done in 2020. In relation to that, Mongolia is adopting long-term development policy called Vision 2050. And related to that, evaluation and monitoring policy frameworks has been amended. And the second core document is Regulation 206. It's an act approved by the government, the Cabinet of Ministries. And for the institutional arrangement, it's oddly enough that the main government institution responsible for overseeing and coordinating evaluation is at the Cabinet of Secretariat, not at the National Development Agency or the newly established Ministry for Economic Development, because from the policy framework, it's embedded in the development policy planning, but from the institutional perspective, it's embedded in more like on monitoring or controlling, auditing functions of the government. I also would like to refer to a couple of research that has been conducted for the recent years to give an expression or give an information on what are the current challenges and gaps in national evaluation capacity. So the first research, the case study has been conducted by the UNICEF, and the second one has been conducted by the EPIA last year, and I hope the reports are published and you guys can access it. So from enabling environment, of course, there is a demand for the key core aspects is demand for evaluation, leadership, and use of evaluation, and resources and culture. So in terms of demand for evaluation, it's mainly limited by the policy frameworks. So certain policies and laws require evaluation to be used in budgeting, reporting, and planning. So government institutions' use of evaluation is pretty much limited by that. And government establishment of MNE is more focusing on monitoring rather than evaluation. The most of the evaluation is being done by the support of development partners in Mongolia. This is also related to the lack of leadership at the high level. Politicians or heads of different institutions, ministries, and subnational level. Because there is a lack of leadership, use of evaluation is often avoided because the leadership sees the evaluation results as scorecards for their performance and avoids the evaluation results to be published, or if the evaluation results are not in favor for them, then try to try to change the outcomes. And of course, there's a really vague regulations in terms of how the evaluation resources should be allocated and spent. And there's almost every time there's a lack of resources budgeting on conducting evaluation for these various policy documents and programs. And because of the certain challenges like high turnover rates in government systems and lack of training programs and etc., the culture of evaluation is kind of weak, and it's really overshadowed by this our inherited culture from socialist system of state auditing and state monitoring and control. And so, at the institutional level, so this is also results from this case study that UNICEF conducted. The professionals rated that demands is pretty much moderate, but the least, the most aspects with gaps are the resources, leadership, and use of evaluation at the institutional level, at the government institutions. At the individual level, the capacity to conduct and use evaluation really different between the ministries and the levels. At the subnational levels, there is a huge gap in terms of capacity and professional expertise. At the ministries who work with different development partners, the capacity is pretty high. And although there is a training from the National Academy of Governments providing M&E trainings to the professionals, there is a lack of, more detailed or more insightful trainings and coordinated intervention to promote individual capacities of professionals. And also there's a lack of, more progressive evaluation approaches and practices like equity focused or gender responsive evaluation, results-based management and management, etc. So in general, the main gaps, as we can see, is that demand for use of evaluation is limited by policy frameworks and processes in national evaluation systems. It's mainly used within the bureaucratic system for the reporting, to report to the upper level of the government bureaucracy. And lack of leadership and resources often challenge the improvement of the technical capacities and optimization and introduction of new practices and more innovative approaches to the evaluation. And evaluation practice is limited by general dimensions, the policy framework and the institutional process provides basis for more general types of evaluation, not the introduction of detailed different approaches and different practices as RBM or gender and equity focused evaluation and other different practices. So mainly the challenge for NEP's promotion and development in Mongolia was that all this intervention was not consistent. And it was based on technical need or technical intervention rather than organic development. And there is a huge lack of leadership and evaluation culture in Mongolia, which prevents further development of evaluation practices and culture in Mongolia. And it's often seen that current capacities and challenges are embedded in the legal framework. And if you want to introduce new practices and new innovative approaches of evaluation and processes of evaluation into the system, the bureaucratic system or government system often requires or waits for the amendments to the policy framework. If policy frameworks are not amended, then the government institutional process will not accept these new innovative processes, regardless of whether it's possible, implementable or not. And there's a significant, challenge with making M&E reports transparent to the public. It's also related to the lack of leadership and fear of politicization of evaluation results and being target of public criticism. This development process of NEP's development in Mongolia is pretty much facing the roadblocks and progress is slowing down. So what we can do to promote...
Mr. Bartsugar, kindly wrap up. Okay.
Thank you, I'm wrapping up. So what we can do to promote is to kind of see the NEP's development from the different perspective, not from the bureaucratic system, but from the more organic intervention, raising awareness of the public and embedding evaluation into the social accountability process and promoting civic engagement and social accountability based on and informed by evaluations. evaluation results. So there have been small interventions or small initiatives from World Bank's Massen project, which showed this can be possible. And in order to do that, we need to raise awareness, public awareness for the evaluation and its culture, and demand to make the evaluation reports public and coordinated and organized manner, and to develop professional capacities of independent institutions and experts to verify and validate evaluation results and data that has been used. Thank you.
Thank you very much, all participants, for this outstanding presentations. We had actually very clear. So big thanks for two things. One is the quality of presentations was outstanding. To do justice to a topic like this in 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes was really good. So thank you very much and congratulations on that count. Second, the heterogeneity of the systems could not have been brought out more vividly than in this presentation. So thank you very much for that also. So now the clarity of the presentations perhaps were so good that there is hardly any question typed in by the audience for the panelists. So congratulations on account of that also. Now I have a couple of questions. My first one, my first question is, if I may ask, in the Philippines case, what I understood is that there are guidelines, there is a framework, still there is a continuous push for legislation, the legal status for policy. Is it because there is no teeth for the guidelines and the framework that the push for policy is there from the evaluators? Anna, would you mind responding to this, please?
Yeah, hi, thank you for that question. Yeah, definitely, like, again, like one of the main issues, like these policies been here as early as 2015, but the progress of the evaluation field in the Philippines never really has progressed, exactly because of what you have mentioned. It doesn't have enough teeth. It's not mandatory. It doesn't have, like, um, it doesn't push the government agencies to really, like, develop this capacity, and, like, make this function really useful for what it truly is. Like, like we always keep joking, it is like every evaluator that I know here in the Philippines are evaluators that just been, like, the leftovers of the planning agencies, the planning departments of each agencies, and they just got transferred to the evaluation part, or the evaluation role. So definitely, like, one thing that we are really looking forward into having this institutionalized is for government agencies to put more focus into developing this function, because right now it's optional, and it's only for, again, because it's only on the executive side, it's only focused on programs or projects of the government. It doesn't focus on the policy or the legislation. The private sector doesn't develop as well. And right now, the only thing that pushes these agencies forward is, like, government, what do you call this, donor, like, this, like, donor driven, essentially. So it's only the donors who ask the government agencies, we want an monitoring and evaluation aspect to these projects that we are funding. We require you to do this, use these standards, use these guidelines, etc., etc. And that's the only way you can have these government agencies to actually perform their evaluation functions. So yeah, I hope that addressed your question, and yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah, that surely answers the question. So I now have a question in the chat box. It's about, let me read it out. Let me ask the panelists about potential of human resource development, UNDP's national evaluation capacity building, and World Bank's clear and global evaluation initiative, and other multilateral and bilateral development partner organizations towards NEPS building in Asia and Pacific. So the question is about whether if the expertise of the multilateral and bilateral development partners will such expertise help in institutionalizing evaluations in our country systems. Anybody may kindly take up.
So I will give it a go initially, and then others can also add. So so we have a clear network in South Asia, and it is helping all the countries in the region in building their evaluation capacities and working with governments. In India, we have JPAL Clear South Asia working with various state governments as well. They also have a MOU with DMO now. So yes, so these institutions like UNDP's NEC, they also have the biennial conferences. They are helping a lot in developing the countries. But beyond that, in Asia Pacific, under the Asia Pacific Regional Evaluation Strategy by APIA, we have our own promoting NEPS theme group, which has been formed. And we are also doing these annual surveys to understand status of evaluation systems in different countries, and also creating dialogue between these different VOPE players. And now we are also moving on to connecting with the government agencies and building together more partners into the dialogue, and encouraging them to learn from each other's systems, case studies, history, to build stronger systems in the region. Thank you.
Yes, I have another question here. Let me. It's about whether it's advisable to make evaluation reports public, or should it be an internal document of the governments concerned. So now the most developed system seen here, I think, to my understanding, is Japan's. And when I had a conference in Japan in 2005, then itself a certain proportion of schemes were annually scrapped based on evaluation findings. So now in Japan also, the evaluation reports are published only in a limited way. So the question becomes, the relevance of the question increases. What is the view? So may I ask Dr. Miyaguchi's view on this? Should reports be public? Should evaluation reports be public? Or should it allow, should evaluators resign to the fact that this is an internal document of the governments?
I think, of course, here I have not ever worked at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan, so I would not be able to represent, of course, Japanese government's position in here. But reading through and studying through, and based on my opinion as well. But for example, I was just reading this, famous Bible, so to say, utilization focus evaluation of Patton, and he was very much talking about the kind of a dichotomy, so to say, the internal and external. And when it comes to, for example, heavy utilization, reliance on internal evaluation, which oftentimes criticized, at the same time, oftentimes praised. And Patton himself talks about the FBI of US. Every single evaluative report or evaluative pursuit of FBI, so the Patton book says, is internal. And that has been very much heavily utilized. So depending all on kind of usage, at the same time, for whom that you are really trying to address. That's first point. And second point is that for example, evaluations results, yes, in Japan they are all publicized and it's accessible to online, but one scholar is talking about, for example, I myself have oftentimes retrieved these evaluation reports and analyzed. I do lots of meta-analysis, but for lay audience, it's almost impossible for the general public to know how to kind of digest and extract necessary and relevant information out of all these evaluation reports. So how to analyze evaluation reports also is important aspect, I think, and also accountability perspective. For whom are we talking about? So intelligent answer, sorry, but it depends, I think. Right.
So that's clear. Thank you. So it's also then if it is difficult for the public, it will be difficult for the legislators as well, and they are persons of consequence. So then yeah, so it's very clear. So now okay, so now there is a question to Dr. Phuntsho, how to empower civil society organization and communities in evidence-based evaluation, evidence-based policy making. Would you come in, please, Dr. Phuntsho and Dr. Bhatsugar, if you could supplement, and then we will wrap up.
Thank you very much for the question. And civil societies are very important. They play a very important role in the development of the society. They do a number of interventions which are like beneficiary to the people. So it is very important for them to empower in the sense that the demand for evaluation should be generated from them. They are one of the user of the evaluation. So they have a very important stakeholders in the evaluation system, I feel, and it is really important for them to bring in to the capacity building activities from the side of the evaluated thinking. Firstly, in case of Bhutan, they really have to have a evaluated thinking in the process and demand for the evaluation. And ultimately, they should also be trained in how to use the evaluation report. Basically, we just discussed that evaluation reports are not understandable to a lot of people, user ultimately. So then the evaluation report doesn't become useful ultimately. So that's why it is very important to bring these users, especially the CSOs and the development agencies, to bring into the capacity building, not just the evaluator. They should be equally empowered and to understand how to interpret the evaluation results and how to use them in generating firstly to take learnings and to firstly to take learnings and to improve their decision making or planning in the future. So I feel that they are very important stakeholders who really needs to empower them along with us, with the evaluators. So so hope I answered the question.
Yes. So okay. Mr. Bhatsugar, would you want to chip in with a half a minute intervention?
Yes, I just wanted to address that question about whether the reports should be published or not. So I think yes, because if the evaluation reports is not public or results are not disseminated, then the use of evaluation is being in the closed circle of development planning and reporting. It's a circle of certain government officials and some development partners, but the public, civil society, and other interest groups are outside of that circle. So publishing the evaluation report, embeds evaluation into the social accountability and civic engagement process, which is a wider process. But the problem with the publishing is that in Mongolia, we have this Right to Information Act where the government agencies required to publish the evaluation reports, but not coordinated and not integrated publishing makes it more difficult for people to track the evaluation results and use it for the accountability. So, things like dashboard or coordinated integrated publishing makes it more user-friendly for general public. But on the other hand, publishing the reports also should be challenged by the professionals and expert community, whether the methodology and approach was reliable, whether the data sources are reliable. Because, for example, in Mongolia, we have only half of the data available only for the half of the indicators for the SDGs. So there might be, data that has been not biased data. So the expert groups, WAPES, should also improve their capacities to monitor and validate these evaluation outcomes and to disseminate and advocate this for the public and expert groups.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's stop here. So I just read a statement which is there, which is what country ownership of evaluation function is of prime importance. So that actually, that statement in the chat box summarizes the importance of evaluation. And so I don't want to add to any of the complexities brought out here. So Mr. Yatin Divakar made a comment in the chat box that the Japanese experience should be documented. I would urge that all these experiences are of immense utility to the posterity. So because successes need to be documented and travails are as important as well. So let's urge to document all these interventions, all these experiences. And thank you all very, very much for this engaging discussion. And over to you, the administrators. Thank you all very much once again.
Thank you, Dr. Anthony, for excellent moderating the session. And really, it was very lively, and I was just listening to different experiences from different countries, Japan and Bhutan, and of course from India, which Yatin has presented the whole history, remarkable. And I think I also agree that it is not only Japan's case, but all the case should be documented. And we at EQI, we will try to push this, that with the help of Yatin, that we should, actually, first of all, take away messages from this particular session, which will be really useful for further. So with this thing, I thank first the chair and to all the panelists, and also the participants who were there throughout the session and asking a very pertinent and relevant questions. So once again, thank you very much for a very, very good and well moderated session from EQI. Thank you, and thanks to all.